Obviously, big speech. We've kept everybody in the country waiting for this big moment, and that announcement has been made. The first question I'd like to put to you is, can you walk us through the process through which you've gone through to come to this very announcement? Obviously, deep-rooted in the new Patriotic Party, for you to make that decision to go independent, it must have taken you through some sleepless nights, maybe.
I believe that I provided the historical context for the decision that I've made. And if you listen to my statement very well, I traced my involvement in the history of the party as a founding member of the NPP and the role that I played in the early years of the party, right down to the point where I was one of the 17 presidential aspirants who contested for the presidential primaries in 2007. I believe that was the turning point. And in all modesty, even at the risk of sounding boastful, I built quite a large following for myself in the party. And the way things turned out after the elections in 2007, obviously I was still interested in putting all my energy to support the process of having the then candidate be selected as President of the Republic of Ghana. Unfortunately, the level and intensity of the animosity that was visited on myself and the supporters who had followed me throughout the years was a source of concern. Look, I mean, I work with people, I treasure what they do for me, and my first obligation for people who work for me is to ensure that I do everything to protect their interests. So it was against that background that I served notice at that time to resign from the party if steps were not taken to address those concerns. And as I mentioned in my statement, the party itself pleaded with me to rescind my decision. And it was on that basis that I did so. I know, look, in politics, people have the appetite for propaganda, so they keep on. Anytime you want to contest, they say, oh, you resigned from the party. But the records are there. It was the party that actually pleaded with me to rescind my decision. And I did not resign at that point in time. But regrettably, all the commitments that the party leadership made to ensure that the divisiveness that were being orchestrated to chase me out of the party, those commitments were not fulfilled. But I still kept my cool. And I'm sure that the president himself would admit that I've been the strongest cheerleader and supporter throughout the years. But I will not tolerate a situation where there's a repetition of things that I know divide our party. I stand for unity. And if the party is not interested in ensuring that the party keeps together, then obviously I have no choice to chart my own path forward. But as I said also in my statement, I still believe as a founding member of I still believe in the principles and the values of the party. But on more sober reflection, I've played my role in the party. It is time for me to serve my country at the highest level of executive authority. So that's exactly what has brought us here. Yes.
We can look at the statistics, sir.
Remember that the fact that you contest as an independent candidate that does not mean that you are obstructing the existence of the political parties. If I wanted to do so, I would have chosen the path of establishing a third force party. So my decision to run as an independent candidate, in actual fact, sends a signal that yes, for the purposes of our legislative functions, our parties will remain relevant. But what you need at this moment in our history is somebody who sits as an honest broker and a referee between the feuding parties, and so that you can be objective about decisions that you make and use the talents from all parties, not just the NDC and NPP, but even from the minority parties. And above all, to use the talents that are available in the whole country. You don't need to be a political activist to serve in government. And I want to change that phenomenon in our politics.
Finally, from me, sir, just one more question. It's a statistical fact that over the years, in our recent history, independent candidates have not done well. It's a fact that we've not had an independent candidate like you. Do you think, sincerely, and based, I'm sure you might have worked the numbers before deciding, can you win, or this is a decision just to scatter the numbers of the party you are coming from?
No, lift the veil, and you realize that the answer you are looking for is embedded in your own remarks. That any time you have a dominant figure coming out of one of the two parties in particular to contest, either as a third or as an independent candidate, the dynamics will be different. I've been a leading member of the party. I have a very strong base, not only in NPP, but across the country. You see what is going to happen. And particularly because of my integrity and credibility in politics, I have no doubt in my mind that, yes, because I'm preserving the existence of the political parties, you find a situation where in both parties, the rank and file would vote for their parliamentary candidates, but as president, because the presidential elections are different from the parliamentary elections, you see the numbers. I mean, it's very obvious that if you work out the numbers, you will find that I will make the difference in December 2024.
All right, sir. My name is Moses from Bloomberg. You mentioned the third chain where independent candidates are not seen to be doing well. How do you mobilize that?
The process has just begun. And the very principle of having a movement for change, a movement for national unity, speaks to the fact that this is a movement that seeks to mobilize people, not just from the rank and file of the two big parties, but indeed from even the smaller parties. As we proceed on this journey, you'll find that what you are saying is exactly what is going to happen. In actual fact, you may not have noticed it, but there were people present today from the minority parties and from movements. Dr. Abu Sakara's movement, for example, was represented here. He himself was on his way coming from the north. But what you are saying is exactly what is going to happen. Look, people are looking for change. I've traversed the length and breadth of this country. People are looking for change. And the NDC retaining ex-President John Mahama as leader of their party has made it clear that they are not looking for change. They want to preserve the status quo. From the way things are going in our party, in the NPP, it is very clear that the leadership of the party is seeking to maintain the status quo against the will of the generality of the people. Remember, the delegates in NPP constitute a very small percentage of the sympathizers and members of the party. Averagely, over 6.5 million people vote for the NPP in any general election. Even when you extend and you go beyond the superdelegates, you are talking about only 210,000 people. What about the 6.5 million odd people who are not delegates? They are the people who matter, and that's my constituency. So I have no qualms and no difficulty in knowing where my source of power will come from. It's not coming from the delegates. It's coming from the rank and file of the party.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Jonas Nyamo. I report for the Africa Report. At the front seat, different capacities, a founding member, and pulling out at this point. Obviously, it means that in the election, the party or the vehicle you have been in would be making some losses by virtue of this decision.
I did make the point in my statement that if you look at all the surveys that have been conducted, both locally and internationally, the general election is going to be a very difficult one for the NPP. And so, in actual fact, by standing as an independent candidate who has roots from the NPP as a founding member, I'm providing an opportunity for the NPP to be able to be part of the future government rather than risking the possibility of going into opposition with no dividends. So I'm rather creating a future for the party still to be part of the power sharing arrangements under a government of national unity. I'm doing them a favor, not the other way around. I've also made it clear that this movement is a movement for change, and the change is powered and led by the youth. So the matter speaks for itself. It is the youth who have found in me a leader who can represent their interests. So I'm a transitional leader. That's the way I see myself. I'm a transitional leader. Everything that has gone on has been organized by the youth. And it is amazing, even without the benefit of having worked, maybe in corporate settings or in the public sector for a long time, the potential that they have. A lot of the work that is going on has been done within just a day or two. So I have faith and confidence in them. They are asking me to lead them to victory. So it to be victory for the youth in 2024. That's the new leadership that we have. That's the difference. The difference is the fact that this is about a youth movement. That's a youth movement.
When you talk about movement, are you taking any cue from Etobi in Nigeria?
In what sense?
In saying that he also had this very massive movement that there was this
Yes.
advantage of, and today he's still doing so well in that.
Yeah.
How do you expect this movement to evolve under your leadership?
Well, I mean, as I said, because of my stature in the NPP, and because also of my political, I would say, disposition in the country as a whole, I know that I'm coming into this movement with a significant part and portion of the rank and file, at least of my party. And there's no doubt about that. Forget about superdelegates and, even if I had participated in this. I keep on talking about how many are the delegates, So you work out the numbers, and then you know where my strength would lie. And incidentally, in the NDC, this is not a complicated exercise. Just interview 10 NDC members and ask them, if they had the choice of voting for Alan Kyerematen and John Mahama, you see that the numbers will come close, you know. So and in addition to that, remember also that the size of the floating voter public is very huge. In fact, it's estimated at not less than 25 to 30%. And so that is my natural constituency, apart from leveraging my strength in the NPP and then also in the NDC. The floating voter public is quite significant. Obviously, if somebody is a floating voter, then it means that he's neither an NPP member nor. Yes. Yeah. So that is a natural constituency for any independent voter. That alone is 25%. Look at the numbers and you take me seriously.